About 6 or 7 months ago, I wrote an article covering my thoughts on stats in CSGO. I think it was called "The CSGO Stat Problem: Can Counter-Strike Be Moneyballed?" And in this article, I talk about what I think good about stats, bad about stats. So that already exists, and I just sort of want to do a sort of parallel topic in this video today, where I talk about this very specific pet peeve I've been having lately. Is this thing that's been really annoying me more and more, where I see someone makes a claim about a player or a team. Well, maybe players for this discussion, and someone replies with saying, "No, you're wrong," and just posts a picture of an HLTV stat page with that player's numbers on it from like LAN tournaments of the past 6 months. And mainly the thing we're supposed to look at, or the eye catches, is the HLTV 2.0 rating numbers for each tournament. And this thing sort of annoys me because, yeah, as the title of the video says, I don't think that just posting HLTV 2.0 ratings is an argument itself. I think it's really problematic when you try to substitute an argument with just this specific fact pattern, and I want to cover why that's problematic in this video. So the first place to start is the actual rating system itself, the HLTV 2.0 ratings. So what stands out about the rating system is some people really liked it when it was announced that it was being changed from the old system that was adding in these new factors. But the thing with the new rating system is the formula, I think, has never been posted on the internet anywhere, at least not publicly. So I always get confused. Like, how could you possibly have such confidence that you're saying, no, this is an argument ender? This person, maybe not even an expert, is wrong. Your opinion is wrong because look at these numbers. But I have no idea how this website came up with these numbers, but these numbers seem to indicate an opposite reality to your opinion, therefore you are wrong. Like, it doesn't hold up logically that you should trust numbers that you don't understand where they actually come from. Now, you know, in that post where they released the HLTV 2.0 thing, where they do the press release for that, or just the post announcing it, they said what it was, the new components they were adding, and people were excited about that. But it's never been specifically outlined the exact formula they're using now. That's, of course, the website HLTV's own choice. They maybe don't want copycats. They want to keep that to themselves, but that's up to them. I'm not gonna go super hard on them. It's just I'm questioning how confident can users be, can people on the outside of that site be in those ratings if they don't know what actually gets to those final numbers. I mean, if you think about something like QB rating in the NFL and American football, they have this numerical point system that rates quarterback based on their performance in a game. So like touchdowns, yardage, negative points for interception. I think they look at pass completion percentage. So using these sort of statistics to come up with a sort of similar numerical rating. It's not like an HLTV sort of thing where like over 1 is supposedly good and under 1's bad, but it's a numerical. It's just a number. It's a whole number. But the thing with that is everyone knows what the actual formula is. I actually don't. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's an easy look up. It's publicly available. Everyone knows what the formula is. So if you're actually an expert and you think that touchdowns within the formula are overrated, then you could see, say, maybe someone has a 4-touchdown game, and then just look at the quarterback rating, and you don't even have to watch the game. You can just sort of know, it's like, okay, maybe that number is going to overrate that player's performance. So just knowing the formula itself, even if the formula is imperfect, knowing that it's imperfect actually sort of helps you in a weird way, that you know in which way that it's biased, if you think it does have a bias. And actually talking about specific players, it gets even more helpful knowing the formula, because say you have a quarterback that's on a team where there's not a good goal line between the tackles, running back, and they have a very difficult time in those short yardage situations. They often rely on the quarterback to make short passing plays to get touchdowns. Okay, and then on the same team, maybe they have really good wide receivers who are good at getting yards after the catch and breaking away in open field once they receive the ball. Now, in this scenario, the quarterback is going to get a lot more touchdowns because, yeah, he has bad running backs, so they're going to pass more. The team is going to choose to pass more in goal line situations, get more touchdowns for the quarterback, and he's going to get more touchdowns because his wide receivers are really good at getting yards after the catch, breaking away in open field and scoring touchdowns that way. So in both these scenarios, maybe that's not him really earning these points, right, on his rating. Maybe in some way is, but he's really getting helped by the circumstances on his team, and maybe, in that scenario again, that his touchdowns are going to be overrated. So every time you see a game where he has a bunch of touchdowns, it's just like, well, on a different team, that probably would have been scored by a running back, or that touchdown would have been scored because the wide receivers aren't as good. So you have to sort of, maybe this stat line, this quarterback rating, makes him look like an excellent player, but maybe you think, okay, I have to sort of take this into account, that he has these factors going for him. He's going to get more touchdowns this way. He's not always earning these as making amazing passes or something like this. So yeah, it can be very helpful knowing the formula, even if that shows that the formula is or the equation is flawed. And the other thing that sort of stands out to me about the HLTV 2.0 ratings is actually this weird thing. When it first came out, Lurpus of all people pointed out that, I think he did I'll have to I'll look up the tweet after I record this video and post in the description box. But he actually, I think, did a single variable regression where he tried to compare just normal kill-death ratio to, like the plus minus positive kills minus deaths, and that gives like a number, versus the new HLTV 2.0 rating. And I think he got something like 97% correlation, which is almost exactly the same number he got. It's just like off by a decimal point, I think he said. I think I remember this at the time when this was coming out. And then, so that the old formula, the original HLTV rating formula, was also like 97%. It was very similar to each other. So that sort of also concerns me, because I think there's this narrative going around that because of the changes made to the 2.0 system, that's much better. It much more holistically evaluates a player's performance in game, and it does a better job of evaluating that. So the fact that it's so highly correlated just to kills and deaths still doesn't, that obviously puts pause to the idea that it's a much better system. To me, that says that it's still very much based on output, whether you win the trade, you win the duel, you lose the duel, whether you die or get a kill, or if you die, that's bad. If you get a kill, it's good. This is just sort of very simplistic stuff still. It doesn't seem like it does all the stuff that we want it to do, where it evaluates how good a player's positioning is and how good his decision-making is, whether he makes the right individual plays. It just still seems about, did he get the kill? Did he get so many kills versus how many deaths? And it doesn't evaluate stuff like eco kills, anti-eco kills, gun round kills, this sort of stuff that we've all been waiting for, and maybe it'll be introduced in the future. But I still don't think, that's not a good indication. It just seems like it's still, very much based on, just kill death, that sort of just base outlook, that the very basic stats still. So I worry that it's not as robust a statistic as people are trying to make it out to be, but I don't know the formula. It could be a very robust system. It could be, maybe in the time since it's come out, it's actually more differentiated from with more and more stats being added, more and more games being played, it's actually separating more and more from that correlation from simple kill death. And maybe it was just the wrong sample size was picked. Yeah, that's sort of maybe a possibility. But the other half of this thing, why I think it's a bad idea to use HLTV ratings as an argument in itself, is that, well, I think when you structure an argument, I think it seems suboptimal to actually have a fact as an argument itself. I think the way I typically structure arguments in articles and videos like this is I try to have like a three-pronged approach where I try to make an assertion, bring in facts or bring in evidence that supports that assertion, and then contextualize that assertion and analyze it with respect, or refer back to the original assertion with the fact. So say, take an example outside of esports entirely. You can do this for anything. Say I saw, was it The Shape of Water a couple of nights ago? That new movie with the sea creature thing, and say I have an idea. I want to make an assertion. I want to make a point about this movie, and say I'll do like a feminist, intersectional feminist sort of statement that, say I want to say The Shape of Water's antagonists represent the patriarchal male society, while its protagonists represent the capital O other, right? Okay, I make that assertion. And then, okay, so what do I do to prove that? I mean, I could just say, well, the antagonist is like a white guy in a nuclear family, and the protagonist, one's like a black woman, another's a gay older man, another guy's a foreigner, another of the protagonists is, a woman, but she's disabled physically, she's mute, and the other protagonist, I guess, is a fish monster. So, I mean, you can give those basic facts, but you have to relate that back to the point. Okay, so maybe the protagonist is a male that's in a very nuclear 1950s typical, even like it almost seems parody in how typical it is. It's very archetypal, and he works for the U.S. government, like the man, while these other characters are all somehow victims of that power structure, right? Okay, so relating the facts back into the original argument. And you can give more detail about how the characters interact and which background these are from to sort of fill this argument out, right? But just saying the facts can be can lead people, maybe without the context, it can easily get misconstrued. Like if you talk about, say, Star Wars, for example, I've seen people do this. They say it's actually a racist movie because Luke Skywalker in the first movie in what's been renamed The New Hope is wearing like this all-white garment, and what Darth Vader is wearing this all black sort of getup, and then he's voiced by a black guy, James Earl Jones. So it's black versus white. The good guy is white, and the bad guy is black. So it's sort of racist, right? Where that isn't actually true at all. You think of the rebels as being very inclusive group. You have aliens and women and effeminate robots. So an inclusive group, the other or the outsiders, versus this very uniform, Nazi-like, fascist-like organization, the man in the empire. So so I think it's important to give context and give details and refer back the facts back into the original argument. Now I think it's possible, I think it's completely possible to have facts themselves as an argument if you sort of iceberg it. Say, to just talk about Counter-Strike and sort of get off of movies. Say a person on Reddit says, North isn't a good team. I don't know why people always overvalue North or terrible, right? I could respond to this. I think I did this like 7 months ago. I could just list off a bunch of North's accomplishments without, addressing the argument saying you're wrong or this is why North's good. And you could just sort of like, at this tournament they placed second. At this tournament they got out of the playoffs. They got out of the playoffs again. At this tournament, got out of the playoffs again. At this tournament, that sort of thing. And okay, that doesn't give the context. You could talk about what they actually achieved within these tournaments and how that, say, this best of 3 win over a top 4 team was a really good accomplishment to sort of talk about, to sort of portray how they're a good team in that way. But you can sort of just look at that argument and sort of infer that they're a good team based on they must have beaten good teams to have gotten a top 8 at these premier level events, at least in best of ones, right? So you can sort of iceberg these things, but like it sort of ties back into my original point that first of all, I guess going back to my original article that stats can be flawed, they're imperfect, right? And then going into my other points I made in this video that HLTV's 2.0 rating, we don't know the formula, and that, it's maybe still very correlated to just very simple statistics, kills and deaths, that it needs contextualization. You can't just post it in itself and that being the argument. You can't iceberg that because it's a very... You don't know what's lying beneath the surface, to continue the metaphor there, right, with the HLTV 2.0 ratings, because you don't really know what it is. So that's, basically my issue with the whole practice that I see. And this isn't to diss on HLTV or stats. It's more to diss on fans who don't want to make a more full-fledged argument and just copy-paste or take screenshots of HLTV statistics and substitute that as an argument, which I don't think is fair, for the reasons I gave in this video.